Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And are we okay over there? My first story of the day is something that's happened at the national level that's echoing what we're doing here in Texas. Donald Trump has declared Muslim Brotherhood and a few other people as foreign terrorist organizations. That's what Greg Abbott did last week. And so I like this because one of the questions that we had when we were talking about this on the James Show, and was it just yesterday or last Friday, is that it seems really weird that the Muslim Brotherhood can be recognized by a state as a terror organization. Quite obviously, it's a terror organization, but not by the national government itself. Now, you can make an excuse for that if you have a Team Blue weenie up there is all sympathetic and, one of the Free Palestine crowd. But when you have a Team Red stalwart, when you have a Donald Trump in office, what's the holdup? Well, things have been made right from that point of view. A couple of reports on this. I want to start with Sky News. I know they're out of Australia, but they immediately throw it to an American as their guest who explains this pretty well.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order earlier today that designates chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist organizations. The Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni Islamist organization founded in Egypt back in 1928, and the White House argues this designation will help the US combat the group's transnational network, which is set to fuel terrorism against US interests and allies in the Middle East. Army, is there going to be much resistance to this move by Donald Trump? Surely the Democrats aren't going to side with the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah. First of all, I spent over a year researching and interviewing members of the Muslim Brotherhood around the world. I went to Cairo and Istanbul and Beirut, Germany, and I met with dozens of Muslim Brotherhood leaders and lay people around the world. And I can tell you it's one of the most dangerous organizations that exists. So kudos to the president for designating them, asking and pushing this for years as a terrorist organization. As far as your question when it comes to the left, they're going to cry foul this. Of course they are. The Muslim Brotherhood was telling me that they have co-opted the left. Like that was part of their strategy. And they of course adopt the language of the left. They talk about victimhood and colonization, right, and occupation. These are all things that they use. They know that the left kind of is attracted to that, and the left has been, for the most part, supportive. The left makes arguments for them, saying they're not a political organization, they're a religious organization. You can't go after them. You can't attack them. While they are those things, and by the way, so is organizations like Hamas, but their main point of business is terror.
So that sounds familiar because last weekend, our governor said something similar. And I don't mean last weekend, 2 days ago. I mean last weekend. This is your governor.
Well, first, with regard to CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood, we all know that the Muslim Brotherhood has been involved in terror across the world. And as you listed on your show already, you pointed out two of many examples about how CARE and its affiliates are tied to both Hamas as well as to terrorism. And in fact, one of the founders of the Texas branch of CARE was sent to prison for 65 years for financing terrorism. The fact of the matter is there are people associated with CARE who pose a serious danger, and that's exactly why I designate them as a foreign terrorist organization that, among other things, prohibits them from either owning or buying property in the state of Texas.
And I'm really interested in this because, immigration is supposed to be used by the people for good, for the good of the people. It's not supposed to be used against us or to destroy us or to dilute us or to end our civilization or end our country as we know it or upend the mores and traditions that built this country. I mean, if we're smart, all citizens would use the power to make their country better, as we should. So if you want Western civilization destroyed, this doesn't bother you. If you don't like America, if you think it's racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, then this isn't a big deal. But if you think this is a good country, worth saving, worth preserving, if you think this is a good culture that's better than other cultures, and I'm saying cultures, not race, people, then this should really bother you. Now, CARE's not going to like it very much. This is KPRC down in Houston. The Council on American Islamic Relations responded at the end of last week to Governor Abbott's declaration.
CARE's national chapter has sent a strongly worded letter to the governor rejecting his decision to label the group as a terrorist organization.
Abbott says the designation is justified, but CARE says the move is unsupported and unlawful. KPRC2 News reporter Rilwan Balogan joins us live now to explain what the designation actually means. Rilwan.
Yeah, Keith, Daniela, with this designation, under a new law, the governor can ban members of CARE from owning property along with any associated groups with CARE. This is one reason why the national director for CARE in D.C. is calling the governor's proclamation defamatory. In a letter to Governor Greg Abbott, the Council on American Islamic Relations national chapter blasting the governor on his terrorist designation of the group. The group writing, "Your proclamation has no basis in law or fact," adding, "You do not have the authority to unilaterally declare any Americans or American institutions terrorist groups." The governor says CARE is a front group for terror group
Wait a
Hamas.
second. Wait a
His
second.
proclamation-
Wait a second. Wait a second. So CARE's official response to the governor saying, "Hey, I'm designating you as a terrorist organization because you support terrorism." They say, that's wrong. You're not allowed to make that designation. What? No. CARE, the correct answer is we don't support terror. We're not terrorists. Of course you have the right to make that designation. You're just wrong because we don't support terror. Not you're wrong because you don't have the jurisdiction to make that call. Good Lord. So this becomes a very touchy subject because we have a couple of problems here. Number one, how do we stop people from coming into the country that want to destroy it? First, can we get half the country to agree that not everyone from every country has a right to come here? Not people who want to destroy this country should not be allowed to immigrate here. People who don't share our values, people who don't share our, I'm not so big on the traditions. If you have a different set of traditions, but your values are the same, you don't think raping women is okay. You don't want to dress my wife like the Emperor's Guard from Return of the Jedi. You're okay with a bikini. I really don't care what your background is. It's the actual values here. We're judging these people not based on the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And their culture has some big fat question marks that do not align up well with the Enlightenment thinking that is the foundation of our country. And Enlightenment, I mean with the capital E, the Enlightenment philosophers. So when we talk about natural law, when we talk about equal rights, when we talk about, women having their witness, their testimony count just the same as a man in a jury trial, those are things that aren't necessarily shared by other people. So we have to first get half the country to admit that these people, we shouldn't be letting people in here that want to oppress women and not have all of our citizens have their full complement of human rights. People that want to destroy our system, they want to destroy Western civilization. They outright say it. Then they segregate themselves off and they make their own courts. No. These people, number one, we got to stop them from coming here. Here's the hard part. Are we going to have to start a mass remigration? What's the word for that? Where you take some people who've already immigrated here and maybe they even have legal status, but revoke it all? Say, now you're going to have to go back. We gave you a chance to play fair in the sandbox, and you clearly are trying to set up your own little Sharia system here. We've seen how that's worked in every other country where Muslims have become a majority of the population. We don't like the results. So no. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, Evan Sayet, the comedian turned political satirist who will explain how the people who support the Palestinians and the Muslim Brotherhood and basically the terrorists, how do they think like that? Find out next on The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Well, now that Trump and Governor Abbott have declared Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR as terrorist organizations, foreign terrorist organizations, what do we do next? We got to start kicking people out? My next guest is going to explain how some people just aren't on board with what seems obvious to the rest of us. It's the great Evan Sayet. Welcome back to the James Show. Happy early Thanksgiving, sir. All right. So the first question I want to ask, because this is what you're good at, for most of us, especially the people listening to WBAP, we see a group of people that have come to this country that don't like this country. They want to transform it into something else. And I don't mean something else within the bounds of the Constitution. They're setting up their own court system. They're segregating themselves off. They're not participating in the rest of society. And everywhere else they've done this, they've overtaken the native population, established Sharia law, and we don't want that to happen to us. So we think, well, that's a bad idea to import people like that. A big chunk of the country doesn't see it. Why not? Well, I think once the people, whether they read your book or if they watch your old Heritage Foundation video, once you absorb the unified field theory of liberalism, you kind of start to see it popping up in other conversations. I remember after Charlie Kirk passed away, this was one of the clips I played, Evan, and listen to this.
Are some cultures better than others? No. What the? Do you think that our culture is equal to Iran? Do you think our culture is the same as the CCP?
It's that guy's initial reaction. Charlie Kirk goes, do you think our culture is better than others? The guy is offended. Like, no! Like, oh my God, why would you ask this? Why would you even consider such a thing? And of course, our culture is better than others. You know, there's some cultures out there that are still cannibals. You know, of course, we're better than the people who make their women dress up like ninjas. So, Evan, say it. What do we do about the Islamicists that are already here? And by Islamicists, I don't mean they're all terrorists, but this is their ideology, their driving ideology. So the people, like we have 2 Sharia courts in Dallas, we have one in Irving that are being investigated by our governor right now. What do we do about the people who are already here? All right, good stuff. Evan, say it. Where do we find your work online? Right. And if you're going to go through it, he's got a series. You have to start with the Kindergarten of Eden. The subtitle is How the Modern Liberal Thinks. Do I have that right? Because I'm just paraphrasing. Okay. So this is the basis of the unified field theory of liberalism. Explain how this sort of organically became your brand. All right. Well, I recommend people read the book, but if reading is too difficult for you, I can send you a link to the video. It's 40 minutes. Can you watch 40 minutes? Thank you very much, Evan Say It. We got to run here. Coming up next, the busiest travel holiday of the year, and this is the busiest day of the travel season. How's it going in Dallas? Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. It's the busiest travel season of the year, and today is the busiest travel day of the season. WFAA was out at the airport this morning to give you a live look.
Well, from the roads to the skies, Thanksgiving travel is expected to shatter records. The FAA says today will be the busiest air travel day of the week. Here's our Chris Sadeghi with the latest.
It was not that chaotic a morning here at Love Field, even though they were expecting a busy day. From what we saw, the security lines remained fairly short for the most parts of the morning, not a significant amount of delays or cancellations. However, if you're flying, you probably should expect to have a lot of company because today is the day the FAA forecasts the most flights of the week, with more than 52,000 across the country. Altogether, the amount of passengers slightly up from last year. However, more people are getting a head start this year, leaving today rather than tomorrow for their Thanksgiving destination. That could be because people booked during the uncertainty of the shutdown, trying to anticipate any delays. When the shutdown ended, the FAA said the goal was to be at full capacity in time for this week, and they say that goal was met. Still, some of the passengers we talked to this morning say they still would rather be early than sorry.
I'm a pretty chill traveler, so I did book in advance, but I always like to give myself some extra time. So I figured I'd try to travel before the holidays and then just get to enjoy time with family.
We left a little bit early just in case there was any, backed up, checking our bags. And then we know there's been some cancellations within different airports, so we just wanted to be here on time.
But it is not just in the air. Enric says the vast majority of Americans are traveling to their destinations by car, and the busiest days to hit the road are this afternoon and then also Wednesday afternoon. So if you want to get ahead of that holiday traffic, best to leave earlier in the day. I'm Chris Sadeghi. Now back to you.
All right. The news likes to spend a lot of time on people in the airports. And listen, I understand airports, there's a lot of action there. And there's a lot of important people that go in and out of airports. I got it. But most of us don't. Most of us are not going to fly for the Thanksgiving holiday. Most of us aren't going to fly over the holidays at all. And so when you look at like how many people like fly, every year, it's hard to get a solid number on that, but it's definitely not a majority. Now, over the course of your life, of course, most people will fly, but most of us aren't flying this weekend. Most of us aren't flying for Christmas. Most of us aren't flying at all. They should spend a lot more time on the situation going on the roads. They should spend a lot more time, because what did he say? There's like 70 million of us are going to get in the car and travel for Thanksgiving. So that's my one weird criticism, but I get it. You can go to an airport. What are you going to do? Go to the nearest road? Fine. I kind of get that. But I just think the airports get too much focus when it comes to stories like this. But that being said, the other reporting that you're going to be getting all week over the next 48 hours or so is this whole discussion over the price of your Thanksgiving dinner. Now, this is kind of a silly conversation to have from a point of view of an Austrian economist, because if we had our druthers, we wouldn't have a Federal Reserve that has built-in planned 2% inflation every year, and prices would be generally stable. And so there wouldn't be, well, how much did it go up last year? How much did it go up this year? And there wouldn't be the steady rise of prices. But that being said, in the flawed fiat currency world we have to live in, this gets really goobered up. The Associated Press had a story today that said the bird flu and another disease have shrunk the U.S. turkey population to a 40-year low this year, and wholesale turkey prices are expected to be up more than 40% as a result. However, market research company Data Assembly expects 10 holiday meal staples to cost 4% more overall. Canned cranberry sauce, canned cranberry sauce, had the biggest price increase after drought-impacted production. The new tariffs on steel made cans more expensive. If you go click through to the links and the Associated Press story, and you go look at the source material that they're referencing there, some of it comes from the Farm Bureau. They have their 40th annual official release on the cost of your Thanksgiving meal. And here's what the source material said. Now, remember, this came from the AP, not MSNBC, not the Democrat National Convention, not the office of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Jasmine Crockett. This came from the Associated Press. You hear that, you come across with the idea that, oh my goodness, everything's more expensive, especially turkey and cranberry sauce. And your holiday staples, everything's going to cost more. Here's the source material, Farm Bureau. The 40th annual American Farm Bureau's Federation Thanksgiving Dinner Survey finds that a table of classic dishes for 10 people will cost $55.18, down 5% from last year. 4 of the items dropped in price this year: turkey, cube stuffing, fresh cranberries, and dinner rolls. However, 5 items rose in price: sweet potatoes, frozen peas, vegetable tray, carrot, celery, whole milk, and whipping cream. Pumpkin pie remained unchanged from 2024. So the Associated Press went and say, okay, so the price of turkeys is down, but the wholesale price of turkeys is up. And fresh cranberries are down, but canned cranberry sauce had a big price increase. That's just straight up lying to you. If you want to be thankful for anything, be thankful that somewhere, someone is clicking through to the source material and giving you the real story. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And coming up next, people are floating the idea of covering weight loss drugs, the Ozempians, with Medicare and or Medicaid. And I thought this was a perfect discussion for your pre-Thanksgiving or pre-Thanksgiving James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hello, happy Thanksgiving Eve, if that's not a thing. Well, it is now. I just made it up. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. What do you think about the idea of weight loss drugs being covered by Medicare or Medicaid? This was an interesting discussion when these drugs first came out. But now that we have, side effects that are starting to be noticed with them, now that we're starting to learn things that we didn't know a year ago, it's kind of starting to change this conversation just a little bit. Did you know that these drugs are based off some poison in the saliva of a Gila monster? Gila, Gila monster, Gila monster. Gila monster. Thank you, lizard expert in there. Reptologist. Is that a thing? Did you say herpetologist? Oh, give yourself 3 points if that's true. Google it first, but I'm impressed that you know that. Garrett doesn't impress me much. Give me a break. But even as someone as, libertarian and free market minded as me, I can easily understand the argument for this. Look, we have socialized medicine for the most part as it is. And when I say that, I know that for most of the people listening, you don't have socialized medicine. But when more than 50% of all the dollars that are spent on medical care go through a government system, we can kind of say that, right? Between Medicaid and Medicare and child health insurance, all that goofy stuff. So it's not that do we cover Ozempic with Medicare and Medicaid or nothing. Either we cover their Ozempic or we cover their insulin, I think is the trade-off here. Either we cover their Ozempic or we're going to be on the hook for covering their knee replacement surgery when they're 66. Because they'll be Medicare age. Either we cover their Ozempic now, or we're going to be covering their 7 heart attacks and 4 strokes by the age of 71. So it's not just like an easy either or here. And this is the ugly, terrible incentive seesaw that socialism puts you on. You don't get to escape it. You don't get to choose. You get trade-offs. But since we don't live in a world of infinite resources, everything's going to be a trade-off. So the idea of weight loss drugs being covered by Medicare and Medicaid, again, my original free market capitalist approach is we shouldn't be covering anybody's drugs through the government. But now that we are, my next question is like, which one costs us less money? Is it going to cost less money to give these people Ozempic or to give these people Walmart scooters? And, it's not all financial. I mean, that's my main driver on, if I have the lesser of two evils here, I'll take the cheaper one. But there's also going to be some reverberations that aren't felt on the pocketbook. Because if we are starting to cover people's Ozempic, anyone who's overweight, we'll cover your Ozempic. It'll Medicare, Medicaid, we'll cover it. Does that mean for the 40% of us who are going to take an airline flight this year that you're less likely to have to sit next to some bison on the plane that is spilling over the armrest? That's kind of nice. If you have fewer hungry people, does that mean your favorite restaurant isn't going to be as clogged up with an hour-and-a-half wait list every Friday? Because that could be a good thing. Is the drive-through line at Whataburger going to be considerably shorter if we start handing out Ozempic like Tic Tacs? Hey, more cheeseburgers for the rest of us. The supply and the demand. If the demand falls this much for food, I mean, our prices is going to get better for the rest of us. They're going to be just giving out food at the grocery store. It's like, please, we hadn't seen Oprah in 5 days. And then think about this, like this doesn't affect you directly unless you work for a company that could benefit from this. Like if you work for an airline and for over the next year, we just start pumping anyone who wants it full of Ozempic and people are just losing dozens of pounds, hundreds of pounds, and a cumulative millions of pounds all across this country. How much money do you think Southwest Airlines will save on jet fuel come 2027, come 2028? It'd probably be like a $600 million swing. It would be huge if we covered Ozempic and Mounjaro and whatnot. I caution against it because there's a terrible record in history of the government supporting something and, in fact, pushing it on their population. It turns out to be something that's not very good for them at all. All right, coming up next on the James Show, kind of an important discussion here. It's the last week of hurricane season. The season has been below average, so unless we just get like 5 hurricanes over the next 4 days, it's going to be a below average season. But I'm going to play you a bunch of news clips from all year long reporting the opposite, reporting something that turned out to be not true. It's going to blow your mind next. But also, I'm reminding you to support the 38th annual Cumulus Kids Toy Drive presented by the good folks at Dan Harker and Empower Home Team. And so for the children of 2 Dallas-Fort Worth schools, this is going to be Christmas for some of these kids. Charles Nash Elementary in Fort Worth, which I went last year. It was great. Martin Luther King Jr. Arts Academy here in Dallas. A couple ways you can help. You can already drop off a toy, a new unwrapped toy at any Sandpack Auto Group location. Ask your phone. Your phone knows where they're at. Or the easier way is you can just make a donation online. A couple ways to do that. Go to WBAP.com or text KIDS to 800-288-9227. KIDS, KIDS, to 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll blow some global warming propaganda out of the water on The James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And I am your host, James Parker. Hey, I know. Good to see you, too. Hey, so it's November. The hurricane season ends at the end of November. I know that's not a big deal for us because we're not in like Hurricane Alley or whatever. But this isn't about us for a second here. I'm going to tell you how hurricane season ends before we review how it begins. You mind if I tell you this story backwards? Because unless something magic happens, unforeseen, in the next 5 days, 2025, the hurricane season will end without one single U.S. landfall. Not one hurricane hit our country this year. It's the first time that's happened in 10 years. But of course, it's not going to make the headlines. They don't want to tell you that. But let's also count the hurricanes that were created. 13 tropical storms, 5 hurricanes, no U.S. landfall. Not exactly an overwhelming, breathtaking, or above average hurricane season. In fact, both of those numbers are below average. And when you see what NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, predicted, when you hear what AccuWeather predicted, when you hear what all of the media parroted throughout this entire process, I hope it ticks you off a little bit. I hope you look at this and say, wait a second, this is just all theater. Yes, it is. So we're going to go through history here. Oh, I have the Audiotron 3000. And I know you love it when I do this. So I've got the receipts, baby. Oh, I've got the receipts. First, here's a video that was released by NOAA. And this is going to be the basis for most of the media's reporting on it for all year long. This was back before the hurricane season even started. Now, hurricane season starts June 1st.
So we're predicting an above average season once again, 2025, above average. You can see the graphic up there. Specifically, it's a 60% chance of above normal season, 30% chance of a near normal season, and only a 10% chance to be below normal. So we're really looking at an above normal season once again.
I don't know if you understood that. He said there's only a 10% chance that we have a below average season. So y'all were 90% wrong. Are you fired from your job, sir, for being this wrong? Are you being reprimanded? Are you getting a pay cut? Or does business continue as usual, whether you're right or wrong? Oh, you're a government entity, so it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. The problem is because NOAA makes this terrible prediction that turns out to not be true, then AccuWeather, a meteorology service, weather prediction service, seizes onto that and repeats it like it's the gospel truth.
Yeah, the work doesn't stop during the off season. We've been busy all winter preparing the hurricane forecast for this upcoming season. So for this year, we're forecasting 13 to 18 named storms across the Atlantic basin, 7 to 10 of which we expect to become hurricanes. And then of those 7 to 10, 3 to 5 major hurricanes. That's category 3 or above. But the number that everybody wants to know about, how many impacts for the United States. Last year, we saw 6, a very, very destructive year. This year, we're forecasting 3 to 6 hits on the United States.
We had zero. And when they say we predict 13 to 19 storms, okay, well, there was 13. So it's at the very, very bottom of what you consider a probability window. Good Lord. So before we even get to June, we've already laid the groundwork where the media repeats this. You know, NOAA comes out with this, AccuWeather comes out with this. It gets repeated by radio stations and TV stations everywhere. And then when hurricane season's starting, you can hear this is KVUE in Austin.
Atlantic hurricane season starts in about a week and a half on June 1st. Today, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Yeah, and they're going to repeat their lies. Okay, so that also works if you go up to the Northeast. They have their stations repeating the same lies. This is CBS 13.
Welcome to the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. Colorado State University released their first forecast for the season. They're calling for 17 named storms, 9 becoming hurricanes and 4 becoming major hurricanes, so category 3 or higher.
Okay, so all those were overshot. Now, you get halfway through the hurricane season, and we haven't had any hurricanes yet. So what do? Do you double down on your predictions? Do you admit that you were wrong? Do you say, well, so far it's been below average?
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
I should have set this up. This is CBS News on August 1st of this year, halfway through the hurricane season, or almost halfway through.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released its final forecast for the 2025 season, and all signs point to an active ending.
And here to explain what that means is lead hurricane season forecaster Matt Rosencrans. Matt, welcome. And hurricane season entering its historical peak with the season ending on November 30th. And you're forecasting a potential 9 hurricanes before then. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the forecast calls for 5 to 9 hurricanes out of a potential 13 to 18 total kind of tropical storms that could develop into those hurricanes. It's kind of normal to have 7 in a year. So we're centered on that, but we are expecting this kind of August and October period to be busy.
Okay, how severe? What do conditions look like right now to you?
How severe? Like it's already assumed to be severe. Apparently it's not severe at all. How severe is the question? Jesus.
So sea surface temperatures in the deep tropical Atlantic, where all these form, right, that's where they get their energy from. Those sea surface temperatures are warm.
Yeah, so we're going to have a whole lot of hurricanes. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Here they are again. This is 6 ABC in Philadelphia. This is now halfway through the hurricane season. Even though there's been no landfalls for a hurricane yet, even though it's been below average, there's still all the reports. Oh, it's above average, especially active. Severe. How severe is it going to be?
The Atlantic hurricane season is entering its peak months. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released its final outlook for 2025 yesterday. The agency says climate conditions are tracking with their original prediction from May.
No, it's not.
With slightly less confidence, there is now a 50% chance of an above normal hurricane season. That's down from 60% in May. Federal forecasters expect a range of 13 to 18 total named storms, including 2 to 5 major hurricanes. So far, there have been 4 named tropical storms and no hurricanes.
The lesson in this is if the media is reporting on something in the future, it's a lie. It's impossible. It's not what news is. Reporting the future is impossible. This is not the Minority Report. You're not God. You cannot time travel. News is taking the information that has already happened and passing it along to you. So what the news should have been saying all year is that this is the below average hurricane season. But what did they tell you all year? I just played you the last 10 months of reporting, pretty much, all leaving people with the impression this is active, not just severe. How severe is it? Well, we all predict above average. And so now we've seen this. We've had the American people who aren't listening to WBAP, who aren't listening to the James Show or checking out the podcast whenever they get the chance. You can totally understand how after all of this reporting for all of these months that they can come away with the impression that we have an issue with hyperactive weather, with disasters. But it doesn't matter. Now, it's too late. You can't go back and unreport all the exaggerated, wrong hyperbole. All the, it's going to be active, it's going to be severe, it's going to be above average. You can't go undo that thinking. So now you can understand why people freak out when you say you don't believe in global warming, why people think, oh, you're a global warming denier, or you don't believe in science. No, you don't believe in science. Your science was all wrong. Your air quote science was all wrong. You're not going to go back and correct the record. You're not going to spend nearly as much time telling the truth as you did fronting the lie. And it's damn intentional that you're doing this. You want people to come across with the idea that there's catastrophic man-made global warming because it fits your narrative. And it's good for people in the weather business too. They're not going to get you to watch the weather by saying, hey, the weather's great, go live your life. So it's one of the biggest lies in American society, really in the globe right now. And I can't wait for this to just be exposed and be over for good. This whole global warming thing, it really is just made up. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next on the James Show, we have progress, ? On the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire. We'll talk to Dr. Bo Kabbalah from Poli-Sci at Tarleton State University next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners here in North Texas. James Parker here for Rhino Shield. Listen, at our previous house, for some reason, Miss Parker just did not like the color of our bricks.
Hi, Miss Parker.
And she talked about wanting to paint them or do something with them or do a German schmear, whatever the heck that is. Now, if we were still in that house, I could make her very happy by getting Rhino Shield. Painting the bricks would have been a big mistake. Rhino Shield, not only does it attach to bricks, it's better for bricks because it's fully breathable. It expands and contracts, and it won't hold the mildew and stuff behind itself to rot out your bricks and your mortar. And it attaches to everything, whether it's brick or stucco or hardy board or wood or aluminum, whatever it is. Rhino Shield has you covered. And it's a good way to take care of those bricks. And I get it because there's that sort of that reddish orangey brown color that just looks like 1971, doesn't it? Like, didn't your grandma have a couch that was that color or had the plastic dishes that were that color? You know what I'm talking about? The Tupperware that used to snap on the top, that orange color. That does look old. And if you want it to look nice, get Rhino Shield. And you're going to come back in 5 to 10 years, 20 years. There's not going to be any cracking. There's not going to be flaking. There's not going to be peeling. It's going to last longer than paint. But also the color, I don't want to say it doesn't fade, but it fades at a glacial pace, so much slower than paint. And plus, you get a little bonus out of it. You get some insulation, a 6.9 R factor. It blocks 90% of UV sun rays. It does keep your surface texture. So if you like a cool little stucco or adobe or brick or whatever, just because it's thicker doesn't mean you're going to lose that good aesthetic. Plus, if you're worried about the cost, mention the James Show. You get 20% off through the holidays. And if you ask Gary, he can get you hooked up with financing. So instead of coming out of pocket for the whole thing, you're just paying $150, $160 a month. So really, there's no excuse to not go to rhinoshielddfw.com, have Gary come out, show you the technology, give you an estimate, and then you can make a decision going from there. So do yourself a favor. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com. Well, we are getting closer to a Russia-Ukraine ceasefire, according to reports. Do you buy that? This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. The U.S. and Ukraine have approved a new 19-point peace plan. Hadn't heard much from Russia as of yet on this new 19-point peace plan. But there's some meetings that are happening, and my next guest may have some insights on that. Coming back on the James Show, Dr. Bo Kabbalah from Political Science at Tarleton State University. Welcome back, sir. Now, Ukraine and Russia are good with this deal. Do you think Ukraine and U.S. are good with this deal? Do you think Russia will be too? Well, when you and I talked about this last week, it was a 28-point proposal. Now we're down to 19. Do we know the 9 key points that got thrown in the trash can? Well, explain what's happening in Abu Dhabi and Geneva. Now, Geneva was the previous meetings. Abu Dhabi are the current meetings. Is that right? All right, we're talking with Dr. Bo Kabbalah from Tarleton State University. You know, while they're having these talks, there's still missiles that are flying all over the place. I do a quick search, and there's attacks that are happening into this week. I mean, it sounds weird that there's peace talks going while missiles are flying, but is that normal? All right, Dr. Bo Kabbalah, give me a timetable. Do you think this is something that could be wrapped up before Christmas? Well, Dr. Bo Kabalo, Tarleton State University, I appreciate your insights, and I hope we get peace pretty soon over there. Thank you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, so coming up next on the James Show, there's some headlines out there that I think it's good to remind yourself in this week of Thanksgiving that there's plenty of things to be thankful for, and we'll run through some of that in the headlines next on the James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And as we are all going to be with our families on Thursday, or most of us are going to be with our families on Thursday, you know, this is Thanksgiving. And we don't live in a world where giving thanks makes the news. We don't live in a world where gratitude makes the headlines. And we are not better for it. It's an understandable, and I'm not saying like the media, 'cause, you know, I'm kind of part of the media here. It's not like we're out there and we're trying to make you depressed. It's just negative stuff is necessarily more newsworthy to begin with. And then on the other side of that, as a human being who's gone through the evolutionary process, we all have a negative cognitive bias where bad news gets our attention more than good news. Bad news holds our attention more than good news. And it makes sense. The story about how two guys got into an argument and shot each other at work, that's news. Two guys going to work and getting along swimmingly, not news. Understandable, right? I mean, it's just part of it. Also, there's a more animalistic level than that. When we were just hunter-gatherer cavemen trying to survive and keep the species going, we would scan the landscape. And if you saw a friendly sign, you could ignore it. There was no problem. You had to pay attention to the negatives. You had to pay attention to the danger. And it was more important to you that you miss the good things. You miss, hey, there was an apple over there that was ready to be picked, or, you know, some wild fruit, some berries that you could have picked. It's more important that you don't miss the negative things. If you miss an apple, if you miss some blackberries, you're not going to die. If you miss that saber-toothed tiger, you're going to die. So we all have this built-in negative cognitive bias, and we all have to actively fight against it. It's the same thing as exercise. We've been trained through 2 million years of human evolution, if you believe in such things, that conservation of calories is a moral imperative. It will save your life. Now, we don't want to exercise. Now, conserving calories makes us fat as hell and is killing us. But that's just a recent change in the human experience that happened over the last 50 years. We haven't adjusted to that. So just in the same way, you have to be disciplined and you have to force yourself to exercise. You have to force yourself to burn calories. When calorie conservation was the prime directive for all of human history, you have to go seek out good news, or you have to remind yourself of good news, or you're going to drive yourself nuts. And before you know it, you're going to be one of these people who freak out at the news, start yelling into your phone and start filming your mental breakdowns and putting it on social media. God forbid, you may even get so low, you go to a protest and hold a foam core sign like that's going to change anything. But Thanksgiving is the perfect day to attempt this, to practice this, not to do this. I like the term practice, like doctor's practice. Because the history of Thanksgiving is beautiful in America, and it's almost all religious. You know the story of the first Thanksgiving, and you probably know like 5 different versions of it, but it was an inherently religious thing. You were giving thanks to whom? God. Right. You're not giving thanks to the president. You're not giving thanks to, I don't know, Squanto. I know, God, I was giving you credit. Don't get mad at me. But George Washington did his Thanksgiving proclamation in 1789. And Thanksgiving didn't used to be like a set day that were once a year. We would just generically give thanks to all the things we were thankful for. A lot of times you'll read in the history books that a day of Thanksgiving was declared for whenever something big happened, whenever we won the Civil War, or whenever we passed the Constitution, or whenever we kicked out the British in the War of 1812, or whenever, you know, something happened that was worthy of the country's gratitude. Presidents would declare Thanksgiving. George Washington did one like that in 1789. And Abraham Lincoln, he did one in 1863. What do you think that was about? But in that first Thanksgiving proclamation that George Washington did in 1789, we were a grateful people. And those people were more grateful than we are now, and we're far more wealthy. We have a far more luxurious and comfortable lifestyle than they do. We've never really been hungry. We've never really gone through a famine. I mean, the lowest of the low I got is having to eat ramen noodles for 4 days. There were people who didn't eat food for 4 days in 1789. A lot of them. The average income in the United States during that first Thanksgiving proclamation by George Washington, the average income was lower than that in Kenya today. 70% of the people still, when Abraham Lincoln was around, lived in extreme poverty in 1863. Now, when you look at the entire world, that number is down to less than 9%. In 1990, when I was still in junior high, over 2 billion people lived on less than $2 a day. Remember when Sally Struthers used to be walking through the starving kids in those commercials in the 80s? That was when the UN had set this extreme grinding poverty level of $1 a day. And so now you inflate it. It's up to like $2.35 a day or whatever. But that used to be the metric on what it for real poverty is. Today, it's below 700 million people. Only 700 million people have to endure that level of poverty. And then after being flat for most of human history, life expectancy has gone through the roof. Death rates are falling, even among those with cancer. People spend less of their lives working than in the past. In fact, in the past, unless you were one of the gilded nobles, you worked every day for the rest of your life until you were disabled and your kids could take care of you. These days, we've never worked less. We've never been safer. Our jobs have never been safer. Our society has never been safer, unless you live in one of these hellscape inner city urban neighborhoods. But we do not have an endless grind of plowing the field and picking the crops and tending the animals and being out in the hot sun, exposed to elements, rain, shine, snow, hot, cold. The people in that first Thanksgiving in America, whether you count the one for the Pilgrims or the one for George Washington or even Abraham Lincoln, they couldn't even comprehend what our life is like now. They couldn't even comprehend that food is so plentiful today that obesity is a bigger problem than starvation for poor people. That alone is reason to give thanks. You have never really gone hungry. None of us have ever gone hungry. The one thing that has plagued human civilization for all of human history until about 30, 40 years ago, food shortages. It just isn't a thing anymore. And if you had gone and you had told anybody that, whether they're from Rome or the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, they would not have believed how awesome your life is today. And you only don't appreciate it because you can see other people out there who are doing better than you, and you're just being drugged down by plain old envy. And envy is the opposite of thanks. Coming up next on The James Show, you might want to give thanks for the price of gas. Our teacher Vino from the Crude Truth podcast and Pegasus Country Energy is going to tell you how, the price of oil has gone down. Is the price of gas going to go down more too? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 829.33 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker, and I'm about to get in a car and drive. We'll talk about gas prices in just a sec. I want to remind you that the 38th annual Cumulus Kids Toy Drive presented by Dan Harker and the Empower Home Team, it's happening right now, so please support us. It's going to go to raise money and get a bunch of presents for kids at 2 schools, one in Fort Worth, one in Dallas. You can drop off a toy at any Sam Pack Auto Group location, or you can donate to us. Go to WBAP.com or text KIDS to 800-288-9227. If you're not able to go out there and physically do something, at least donate, because this is legit. I saw the presents being handed out last year. We're not just going to go put it in our bank account and laugh at you. All right, my next guest, RT Trevino, host of the Crude Truth podcast. Welcome back to the James Show, because oil prices seem to be doing a lot better than gas prices, and some people are complaining that the price of gas should be lower. What do you think, RT? So is that too low for you guys? So what makes the horizontal well so much more expensive? It's just more pipe? The physics on that is just astronomical, because you know how levers work. The longer the rod is from the fulcrum, the more powerful the force is when you push on it. So if you have something that's like a 4-mile long pole and you push on one end of it, just the amount that force is magnified, it's just, engineers probably think about this, in their alone time. It's so wild. Yeah, it's a miracle. So, RT Trevino, Crude Truth podcast. What's next for the oil industry? Are you guys now on cruise control that Trump's gotten into power and changed some of the rules? Or are you guys planning for some changes or improvements? Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because we know something's up with the strikes on the Venezuelan drug boats because Venezuela is not one of the biggest drug countries. So this isn't about drugs. This is about, I don't know, pinching Maduro and taking out his only other income source really besides oil at the moment. So I guess from the point of view of the oil industry, that's a pretty big story too, getting Venezuela back online. Agreed. What's coming up on the Crude Truth podcast, RT? All right, good stuff. Go have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, that's RT Trevino from the Crude Truth Podcast and Pecos Country Energy on The James Show. Coming up next, some local schools are offering free lunch while their kids are out for Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, are you guys a school or a welfare distribution center? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Hi, good to see you too. So your kids off? You kids off this week? I have 4 kiddos. They're off school this week. And part of it's jealousy that we only got 2 days off for Thanksgiving every time I was in school. Garrett informed me that he was there for the transition when the kids started to get a whole week off, was around 2007-ish, which sounds about right. And here's something that really ticks me off. The schools don't have time to educate your kids this week. They don't have time to help them read a book or do any math or, God forbid, learn something. But they do have the time to continue handing out free lunches at your expense.
Between inflation and the
I
overall
should say, this is WFAA, our news partner.
Between inflation and the overall economy, there's a huge need for food assistance right now. And this week, Dallas and Fort Worth ISD are stepping up to help. Dia Wall's here to show us what they're doing to help families despite being on break right now.
Well, Chris, you just said it. Food is more expensive these days, and countless kids who normally get 2 meals a day at school are at home for the week. Dallas ISD offered a free pop-up meal service, not just for students in the district, but any child who needed it. The district provided meals at 11 different campuses. We visited this one at Billy Earl Dade Middle School in Dallas. Each person received 3 days worth of breakfast and lunch meals designed to be warmed up and served at home. These were shared with all children ages 1 to 18 and children with disabilities up to 21 years old.
Me personally, I came from here, so this area, so I understand the meaning not having something to eat. So even when I was younger, I did take the opportunity when I was with the ISD to take advantage of the free food for the breaks that was given.
Dallas ISD is not alone. Fort Worth ISD is also offering free meals 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. across 8 of its campuses this week, Monday through Wednesday. It's for kids 18 and under, and you also don't have to be a student in the district, but you do need to be on site to enjoy this meal. So if you'd like a full list of locations and times, visit our website, WFAA.com, for more information. Chris?
Shut it down.
Thanks, Dia.
Just shut it all down. Dude, I'm surprised we don't have everyone just in an open revolt against the public school system after COVID. And if you had any doubt on what the school, and I'm not talking about teachers, I'm talking about the administrators and the people in charge here, so don't get all defensive and reflexive like, oh, he's going after teachers or whatever. No. I'm going after public schools. I'm going after government schools. I'm going after socialized education. Because when you have the entity behind your school system as big government, and I'm specific to big government, I would be less upset and opposed to this if this was happening solely on the local school district level. And local school districts, you know, they're pretty easy to avoid and whatnot. But when you have the local school districts that are subservient to the state Department of Education, which is subservient to the national federal Department of Education, now we have a hierarchy and a control structure to where they will exploit this air quotes charity in order to gain control. Once you take $1 from the federal government, it does not come unattached. It comes with strings. And so now you see the school that doesn't have time to educate your kids this week has time to give out free food. It has time for welfare, but not for education. You have time to hand out 3 days worth of ready-to-eat meals, but not education. So your primary function isn't education anymore. Your number one priority isn't education. And you know how I know it's not? Because you don't have enough resources to do education, but you have enough resources to hand out food. I know where your priorities are, and it's not our children, and it's not their education. So this is disgusting on a few levels here, but just when the promo was running overnight, I got a Facebook message, and I love when you people do this, when you respond to the promos. Who is that? Yeah, let me paraphrase it here because I can't find it. If you're a parent and you are going to have starving kids if you miss 3 days of free lunch from school, number one, you're a bad parent. Number two, we need to call CPS and have you investigated. That's period, point blank, end of story. Hey, there's starving kids out there. Well, We better co-opt our schools and make them welfare distribution centers. No, that's a terrible solution. The real solution is, hey, there's starving kids out there. Let's go have a chat with their parents. Are they really starving? Are they? Or are these parents 300 pounds? I mean, I'm sure somewhere there's skinny people that are getting food assistance, of course. But the idea that you can't afford to feed your own kids in the most prosperous country the world has ever known, there's something wrong with you. Where's their dad? That's his job. Not my job, not your job, the taxpayer. And that just really rubs me the wrong way. Number one, that they're out of school all week to begin with. Number two, the school doesn't have time to educate your kids, but they have time to give away your money. They have time to redistribute your resources. They have time for socialism, social programs, but not your child. And you're the one paying the bill. What a bunch of suckers we are. You know, my hope is that one day the rest of the world will get on board with me and be like, all right, this whole public school thing, we tried it. It was a failure. Let's go back to what we had before that at least and start over from scratch. That's my hope. One day that'll happen. But did you hear any pushback in the news reports there? If I go throw a rock out the window and I hit somebody, do you think they'll agree with me, or do you think they'll agree with the news that you just heard? Oh, yeah, feeding poor kids. That's good. And that's the only just rain puddle level of shallow that they give to the discussion and to the thought process. They don't care because you get the bill. They don't care because they get free food. Your kids don't get educated. They don't care because they get the moral superiority of supporting a program. They think that makes them a good person. Yes, I support a program that feeds poor kids and hungry kids and helps poor people. That makes me a good person. No, it doesn't. Being charitable with someone else's money is not charity. It's theft with good intentions. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. What do you think about schools handing out free lunches during holidays? More on this coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. And it just rubs me the wrong way that my kid's school is closed. Your kid's school is closed all week during Thanksgiving. But there's a lot of school districts here in Texas that are still handing out free food, free lunches. Oh, my goodness. It's for some kids, it's the only decent meal they get a day. Well, then you need to have a chat with their parents. I remember during COVID, 29% of Democrats surveyed were willing for the government to come take kids away from their parents if the parents didn't give them the vaccine. Remember that? Well, so I should be held accountable for that. What about you for starving them? 800-288-9227. Because the obvious irony to that is no one's starving in America. And when I say no one, usually I don't try and say always or never because there's exceptions to that. But this is America. No one's starving in America. No, seriously, no one dies of starvation in America unless it's a kid that's chained to the basement, to the radiator in the basement, and the parents are starving it. Or maybe a sex slave, maybe an anorexic person out there. But anybody who wants food can get food. Go look at all the homeless people. So what do you think about that? Does it rub you the wrong way that schools don't have time to educate your kids, but they have time to hand out free food during Thanksgiving week? This is Bob in Arlington. You're on WBAP. Hey, Bob.
How are you?
Fantastic.
I'm a long-time listener. It's the first time I'm calling. I definitely agree and disagree with you on many subjects, but I enjoy listening to your show.
Great.
As far as schools handing out free lunches, there's lots of families out there that need that. And those kids should, depending on the school district. You got a lot of trophy clubs, South Lake, Holmes. These kids, they come from wealthy families. But, there are some areas, especially where I work in Arlington, where, some families do struggle. Those school districts, if needed, should be handing out free food to kids that do need it. That's where I do stand. And, I'm fortunate enough that, I'm not rich. I make a pretty decent salary. My son that goes to high school does not, really even want to eat school lunch. He prefers to take stuff from home. All right. But not to get off the subject. Have you ever drove past a food pantry coming from a church or any other religious place?
You mean like when I'm leaving church, do I drive past a food pantry?
No, just in general. Like, for instance, on Sunday, I was in Irving.
Okay.
I drove past a food pantry, a church, a Christian church that was, people were lined up. Where I do like to draw the line is people that need that. That's amazing. They should have that opportunity to go to a pantry and pick up food. But if you've ever passed one, how many times have you seen Cadillacs and BMWs and Mercedes? I could not work and hand someone driving a Mercedes-Benz or a brand new Armada or a Tundra. Get rid of your car. Get something cheaper.
Look,
that sounding rude, thinking like that?
No, kinda. That is kind of. How do you know they're not picking it up on behalf of their invalid neighbor or whatnot?
That's completely understandable then. But there's a lot of needy people out there that these programs.
Bro, hang on. Can I stop you here? Because I'll let you talk for about 3 minutes. I want to address something you said at the very beginning. Yes, there's needy kids out there. Yes, we should help them. Yes, if there's hungry people, we should supply them food, but not through the school. That's not the point of the school. The school is to educate children. It's not supposed to be a government welfare distribution hub, and that's what it's turned into. And we also saw just because you're a good-hearted person, Bob, that's being used against you. They are exploiting your charitable nature and your altruism, and that's how they screwed us over in COVID. They weren't able to demand that all the schools be closed. They didn't have that power, supposedly. But what they could say is, we will withhold the federal funding for the school lunch program. And so then all the schools complied because they didn't want to lose hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars or whatever it was in funding, because that would destroy them. And so what turned out to be, hey, the government's just going to help out because what do you want poor kids to starve? Now the governments control the schools. This altruism that they fooled you into supporting is you giving up control to the powers that be that are handing you the money. So you lost control of your school with that attitude. Our kids lost a year of education through COVID with that attitude. We don't control our own schools and our own communities because you're such a nice guy, Bob. You have an almost suicidal level of empathy, and you're just too nice, Bob. It's hurting us.
Well, I mean, thank you for saying that, but
it's not a compliment.
I do disagree on certain things like SNAP and all that. There's a lot of times I'm very observant. And have you ever been in a Walmart or somewhere where someone paid with SNAP, but they have two carts and they're paying cash with a bundle of money, but then using SNAP to buy SNAP, food for SNAP?
Yeah, I used to work at a grocery store. I saw that 100,000 times. Bob, I need you to snap out of this. When I said you're a nice guy to a fault, that wasn't a compliment. But your prime directive is you just want to be seen and perceived as a nice person. That's how we got into this mess in the first place, is because there's so many people out there that don't want to stand up and sound like a bad guy saying we should not give food to kids on a holiday. If the school doesn't have the time and the resources and the staffing to educate our kids, then they need to shut down. If they do have time to open and do anything, it should be educate our kids long before it's school lunch. The school lunch was supposed to be the supplement to the education. Now the education has become the supplement to the freebies that the school is distributing on big government's behalf.
Well, I kind of think that maybe the system needs to be worked a little bit better.
No, the system needs to be eliminated and burned to the ground. See, this is another thing. We have a terrible system, and it's almost like I say, hey, we have a cancerous tumor of statecraft over here. Well, if we cut out the tumor, what are we going to replace it with? Well, maybe we just need to reform the tumor. No, you cut it out. It's a failed program, and you don't make compromises with failure. It's like, oh, how about we just lose by 3 touchdowns instead of 4? No, how about we stop losing? How about we learn our lesson? And it's not a hard one. Capitalism is better than socialism. Even when it comes to charity, even when it comes to food distribution to poor people, the private sector has proved to be far more useful, judicious, efficient, every other adjective that you can think of in the positive, versus putting it in the hands of government. And this is no exception. You're so nice. You have allowed your schools to be turned into welfare distribution centers instead of having their primary focus being educating our kids. And look at this. And for the schools out there, I noticed no one's missing a meal. How's their reading scores? Are they missing any books? Are they able to do math? Your prime directive shouldn't be chicken nuggets. It should be arithmetic. I don't give a damn about a ham sandwich. I give a damn about 12th graders who can't read on a 12th grade level. I give a damn about 12th graders who can't read on a 3rd grade level. We've got to stop this. Everything that sounds nice isn't nice. And in fact, a lot of it that sounds nice is absolutely destructive. And this suicidal empathy is killing us in so many aspects that we've turned off our brain and allowed schools to not be schools anymore. They can talk to your minor children about sex all you want. They can hand out free food. They can teach them that America is evil and racist and built on slavery. How about math? How about reading? Have these kids do they get like a Charles Dickens book with a ham sandwich? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More on this ridiculous program of handing out food for Thanksgiving through the schools. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there. Happy early Thanksgiving. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the specter of schools in North Texas still handing out free lunches this week, even though the kids are all off all week.
Between inflation and the overall economy, there's a huge need for food assistance right now. And this week, Dallas and Fort Worth ISD are stepping up to help. Dia Wall's here to show us what they're doing to help families despite being on break right now.
Well, Chris, you just said it. Food is more expensive these days, and countless kids who normally get 2 meals a day at school are at home for the week. Dallas ISD offered a free pop-up meal service, not just for students in the district, but any child who needed it. The district provided meals at 11 different campuses. We visited this one at Billy Earl Dade Middle School in Dallas. Each person received 3 days worth of breakfast and lunch meals designed to be warmed up and served at home. These were shared with all children ages 1 to 18 and children with disabilities up to 21 years old.
Me personally, I came from here, so this area, so I understand the meaning not having something to eat. So even when I was younger, I did take the opportunity when I was with the ISD to take advantage of the free food for the breaks that was given.
Dallas ISD is not alone. Fort Worth ISD is also offering free meals 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. across 8 of its campuses this week, Monday through Wednesday. It's for kids 18 and under, and you also don't have to be a student in the district, but you do need to be on site to enjoy this meal. So if you'd like a full list of locations and times, visit our website, WFAA.com, for more information. Chris?
All right, thanks, Dia.
All right, so this is where we're at. And the feedback, I think most people thus far are agreeing with me. I'm more interested in talking to the people that disagree. Number one, because I don't understand on a deeper level. There's got to be something I'm missing more than, well, there's poor kids, so we feed them. Yeah, but why do we feed them through the school? What's the point of that? Why don't we say, well, they should be able to go to the DMV and get food? What sense does that make? With the Department of Motor Vehicles, this is for people dealing with their vehicles, their registration, their licensing, all that stuff. Shouldn't have anything to do with food. That's how I feel about schools. It makes about as much sense for me. Now, people are saying, well, they're already getting free lunch from school, so that's the big difference, Parker. Okay, but should they? Should they? Because here's some feedback that we're getting on the James Show here. Richard says, feeding one's kids is the most fundamental responsibility of a parent, yet it's the first thing they want to hand over to the government. Yeah, Richard, I'm not sure if it's the first thing, but it's one of the first things they want to hand over to government. I mean, schooling is a big one. More people do that than take advantage of food stamps. So I would think the school itself is more suspect than the embedded program within the school of free lunches. But it's a real dastardly thing that they do. This is how socialism is sold to a society. They never tell you the truth. They never tell you, well, we would like for government and politicians to control every aspect of your child's education. They say, no, we would like to make it free, even for those who can't afford it. We're giving free education. We're giving free food. We're giving free health care. But you know the truth. None of it's free. You're paying for it. We're all paying for it. And if they don't directly tax you and take it from you, then they inflate your currency and take it from you through the back door. But another great comment that was put through Facebook, this was Robert. Robert says, why don't they have concern about the cost of all these kids having to go to daycare because they shut down a week? Why don't they stay open? The kids miss enough school as far as free meals go when they're not in school. No, that is not the school's job. I got it. Hey, if we're only doing nice things, why don't we have a federal program that gives out puppies? You want to give out puppies to all little kids? No? Well, then why do you want little kids to not have puppies? And then the obvious reaction to that is, well, I do want them to have puppies. I just don't want there to be a federal program. And in fact, I don't think there should be a federal program. And I think that's wildly unnecessary. We live in the freest, most prosperous country the world has ever known. If you want a puppy, go buy yourself one. In fact, I know some people who are giving away free puppies. You can go online and find out free puppies being given away every single day. It may not be the exact type of puppy you want or the breed you want or the perfect puppy, but in a country this rich, no one should go without a puppy. Now, put food in the exact same sentences, and that should make sense. It should make more sense than giving out free lunches from schools that aren't even open. My kids have a school year. They go to regular old Texas public schools. And I don't know if this works for every school district, but in Bug Tussle, they have a 42-week school year. There's 10 weeks off in the summer. 42 weeks. Out of those, 20 of them, they have some sort of holiday. So there's only 22 weeks where they actually go Monday through Friday the entire day. Not a half day on Friday, not a 3-day weekend for Columbus Day, or if we're going to have that off, then we need to have the Friday off, not a whole week off for Thanksgiving, or a whole 2 weeks off for Christmas, or a fall break and a spring break and teacher in-service day, just all kinds of weird stuff in there. About half of the weeks, they have some sort of special occasion. Well, it's not a special occasion if it's happening every other week. It's not a special occasion. It's not a special need if everybody gets it. You're not making sure that only poor people who really need it can get food if you're handing it out to anybody who stops by, and they don't even have to be a student, according to the report from WFAA. And yeah, someone else was pointing out this is terrible because, yeah, that's what Robert was saying. For every time that the schools are out, the poor sucker parents that work have to scramble. The kids that are, the parents that are sitting on their butt at home, collecting a check, not working, they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about you taking days off. Hell, they're not even going to miss a meal because of that. But you and me, we've got to scramble for daycare. We've got to come up with something to do. Maybe Miss Parker has to work from home that day, and that's not really fair to her employer. And so we have all kinds of problems with schools. We have all kinds of problems with our academic performance. We have problems with our reading comprehension. We have problems with our math scores. They're constantly declining. We have problems with behavior. We have problems with sex books in the library. We have all kinds of problems that need to be addressed before somebody misses a calorie. This is Steve in Commerce. You're on WBAP.
I think this is just another reason to abolish the Department of Education.
Yes.
Because if the funds were coming from the locales instead of from the federal government, you wouldn't have this problem. In Las Vegas, Nevada, students can get fed all summer long. That's just wrong.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. The parents that are okay with this, I question them. You don't feel shame that you're not able to feed your kids. You don't feel shame. And this is more for the dads than the moms. Dads out there, any dad, if you have a kid that's getting a free lunch, you have failed them. You're not a bad person necessarily. I mean, you might be a bad person, but I don't know from this level of information. But something's gone wrong in your life, or you should at least feel that way, that you have to rely on the hard work and the resources from some other grown man, someone else who went out there and was so productive he could feed his own kids, and the government could take money from him to feed your kids. It should be a just place of shame and humility. But it's not. It's celebrated. It's put in the news like, hey, anybody want some free food? Come on by. We're just giving out taxpayer money. No big deal. Here's Kilshawn on Facebook. Kilshawn says, I love your show. If we were drawing the line on things, why here at giving kids free food and not some ridiculous military funding? I do agree that schools should stay in their lane and not giving free food when school is out. But what are we doing here? Mad because kids are eating on an off week. I'm not mad because they're eating. I'm mad, number one, because they're eating at my expense involuntarily. I'm not okay with this. Mad, number two, because the schools don't have time and resources to teach your kids, but they do have time to give out free food. If they're giving out free food on more days than they're giving out instruction, then their primary focus isn't instruction. It's the free food. It's just a welfare system that happens to have an educational element in it. And to address your previous point, I'm fine with cutting ridiculous military funding. Yeah, we have like 650 bases overseas. How about we just whittle that down to, say, 300? And if that sounds like a lot, go look it up. It might be even more than that. It might be up to like 800 now. I've been saying that number for 10 years. But yeah, I'm down with that. Let us cut the Department of Education. Let us cut public schools. Let us cut Medicare, Medicaid, and I'll cut the military in half for you. That's an easy deal for me to make. For all you people saying, well, we live without an Iron Dome. Well, everyone else lives without an Iron Dome. I think we can too. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, now some people are getting a little wicked over here. Someone on Facebook with a fake name says, how about you only get free food if you're passing? Like the no pass, no play. All right, I didn't think of that. I'm going to try and remember that punchline every time, because that's not even really a punchline. How about if you're getting Fs, no food, right? That'll be an incentive for you to actually read a book for 5 seconds. 800-288-9227. Coming up in the next segment, it looks like it's going to be a bunch of callers talking about free food through the schools on the holidays. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We're doing the 38th annual Cumulus Kids Toy Drive presented by Dan Harker and the Empower Home Team. What we're asking for is either a straight-up donation of an unwrapped toy and you go drop it off at a Sampac Auto Group location. If you don't know where it's at, your phone knows, ask them. Or something else that's super helpful, just a flat-out donation. I know it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much effort. It may not feel like you're doing much. Oh, but this counts as a lot. Just a monetary donation. You can text the word KIDS, K-I-D-S, to 800-288-9227. Or you can find the link to donate online at WBAP.com. Our story here is having to deal with the schools. My kids are out of school all week. All 5 days. I only remember having 2 days off, and that already bugs me enough. They just can't quit doing their job fast enough at the public schools. But on top of that, they're going to continue giving away free lunches. 3 free lunch meals are going to be given out at taxpayer expense through the schools in Dallas ISD and Fort Worth ISD, and the TV news reports on it. And they're like, isn't this a great deal? Oh, we're helping so many people. This is so awesome. I despise it. I hate it. Schools are not supposed to be a distribution center for welfare. They're supposed to be about education. And so it just seems like the government has exploited our love and recognition of the importance of education, our recognition and the importance of feeding poor people. Combine these two into a mutant baby that just does nothing but make me mad. 800-288-9227. Linda in Fort Worth, you're on WBAP.
Thank you. I agree with you about the lunches. I think we've become social workers in schools instead of teachers. And while there are some kids that do need some food, I think we also are robbing the parents of being competent and taking care of them. But in addition to that, I think it's the learning that I'm concerned about. And what I would suggest that I really don't hear anybody talking about is what if we began to make teachers' evaluations contingent on student performance? In other words, they get raises based on their performance of the kids' performance, etc. Maybe that might motivate. Yeah.
Let me tell you why I'm against that. Look, and I'm pretty close to it. My sister's a teacher. I have 2 aunts that are teachers. Like, both my parents have a sibling that's a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher when I was growing up. Miss Parker was a teacher for a couple years there. And
Miss Parker.
The reason why I'm against something like that is because the primary driver of whether or not kids succeed in a classroom, whether or not they do better or worse, isn't the teacher, it isn't the administration, it isn't the curriculum. It starts at home, and it almost ends at home, starts and ends at home. For these kids that don't have a dad, for these kids that are being raised by the streets and they're pretty feral to begin with, it doesn't matter what teacher you put in there. They're not going to succeed. There's no level of teaching that can overcome the absence of a dad. And one thing we learned just a couple months ago here on the James Show, there was a report about the top performing schools in North Texas. The top performing school district was Highland Park. Number 2, I think, was Allen. They actually paid their teachers on average less than the worst performing school district, Lake Worth. And so my theory is it doesn't matter how much you pay the teachers, what teachers are in there. If you switch the faculties of those 2 schools, you probably wouldn't get different results. Teachers are not the problem. Dads are the problem. Lack of dads is where that starts.
That's great. And that's great. It's a great idea. I agree. I think that when kids have parents they can depend on, they feel safe and they often perform better. I'm a teacher too. I've been in the public school and now I teach teachers. What I do when I go and I see teachers in schools, however, I see teachers that just don't care.
Yeah.
And that concerns me too much. And so that's why we're bringing up this idea. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Thank you, Linda. Beth in Greenville, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hello. I just wanted, this is first time caller. I just wanted to let you know that the school food program is actually through the Texas Agricultural Program, where the school education funding is through a different program. And the one problem I have with the teachers, the students getting fed this week is the lunch ladies, they work hard all week and they're not getting the week off to relax with their families. Also, on top of, I understand the kids may need food, but they're not getting their break either. and they work very hard during the school year also. And I know that they the lunch program is self-funded. They don't get the same funding that through the federal or the state programs that the rest of the schools
All right,
do.
Beth, I'm just kind of out of time, and I think I'm going to say something unpopular here. I don't think the kids are worn out. I don't think they need a break. I think they go to school 140 days out of the year? I think if anything, they need to go longer. I think if anything, they need to have fewer days off. They should probably be in school until 4:30, 5 o'clock. They should probably go year round. This is the only endeavor. Yeah, I don't know, maybe policing, where they're like, we're having problems with education. Well, let's go to school fewer days. What sense does that make? Yeah, let's just do a 4-day school week. Yeah, our scores are terrible. They're in the toilet. So let's cut 20% out of our educational schedule. Nah, your heart's in the right place. People are just nicer than me, but you're still wrong. Just being nice doesn't make you right. Me being a butthead doesn't make me wrong. Oh, man, I love this topic, though. Thank you very much, everyone, for calling in. Thanks for all the Facebook messages. Thanks for all the emails, parker@wbap.com. But that's going to do it for the James Show today. Come back. I'll be here tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm about to go put up the podcast. And Mark Levin's coming up next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.